Look, there's this person in your life and you know exactly who I'm talking about. They've crossed a line so obvious it's almost ridiculous. You've thought about removing them 1,000 times. You've drafted the message in your head. You've played out the conversation like 1,000 different movie scenes, but every time you get close to actually doing it, something stops you. And you tell yourself it's because you're nice. You tell yourself it's because you don't want to hurt them. You tell yourself it's because they've been in your life for so long that cutting them off would be like losing a piece of yourself. But that's not what's actually happening. The real reason you're scared to cut people off has nothing to do with them and everything to do with what losing them would mean about you. See, when someone's been in your orbit for years, there's this narrative you've built around keeping them there. The narrative is usually something like, I'm a loyal person, or I'm someone who doesn't abandon people, or I'm understanding and patient and kind. And on paper those are beautiful qualities, but here's the thing. You've built your entire self-image around being the kind of person who stays even when staying destroys you, and now if you actually leave them, it doesn't just feel like you're losing a friend, it feels like you're losing your entire identity. It feels like you're admitting that you're actually selfish. It feels like you're becoming the villain in a story you've been telling about yourself for years. The people you can't cut off are usually the people who make you feel like you're better than them just by comparison. They might be struggling with addiction, or they're emotionally unstable, or they're constantly pulling you into their drama, and on some level you know that you're only keeping them around because next to their mess your life feels more manageable. Next to their chaos you feel more stable. Next to their dysfunction you feel almost responsible, almost needed. And I know that sounds dark. I know it sounds like something you wouldn't admit out loud, but look at the people you've tried to cut off before, the ones you actually succeeded with. I'm willing to bet they were people who made you feel like equals, people who challenged you, people who didn't need you as much as they needed your validation, and that's why they had to go, because the moment someone stops needing your rescue, the entire foundation of your relationship crumbles. But the toxic people, the ones who are genuinely destroying your peace, the ones who drain you, the ones who lie to you or manipulate you or use you, those ones are harder to let go of because they make you feel like you have a purpose. They make you feel like without them you're just another ordinary person living an ordinary life. And ordinary people don't have the kind of importance that comes from being the strong one, the loyal one, the one who can handle the chaos without falling apart. If you cut them off, you lose your hero narrative. You lose the story where you're the one who's holding everything together while everyone else is falling apart. And yeah, that story is exhausting. Yeah, it's destroying your mental health, but at least it's a story. At least it means you matter. At least it means your life is complicated enough to be interesting, so you stay and you tell yourself you're doing it for them when really you're doing it for you. You're doing it because the thought of being just another person with a normal life and normal relationships and normal amounts of peace feels completely unbearable compared to the alternative of being the noble martyr, the long-suffering loyal friend, the only person who really gets them. And meanwhile, the days are melting together, the resentment is building like rust. The bitterness is turning your voice sharp, and one day you're going to look in the mirror and you won't recognize yourself. But here's what nobody tells you about cutting people off. It doesn't actually make you a bad person. It makes you someone who respects themselves. It doesn't make you selfish. It makes you honest. And yeah, you're going to lose something you can't replace. You're going to lose the role you've been playing, and that's going to feel like a death for a little while. But that death is actually a rebirth, because the person you become on the other side of that cutoff isn't weaker. They're just real. They're just someone who decided that their own peace matters more than someone else's chaos. And that's not cruelty, that's sanity. I know you're scared that if you let them go, nobody will need you, that you'll discover that your entire value was tied to being useful to someone who was falling apart. I know you're scared that you'll finally be alone and you'll realize that you never actually developed a personality of your own, that without the drama you have nothing to say and nothing to do, and nobody would choose to be around you if you weren't solving their problems. Look, that fear is real, and I'm not going to tell you it's not valid, but keeping someone in your life specifically to avoid finding out the truth about yourself, man, that's a longer and slower way to destroy yourself than just cutting them off. Would be the people worth keeping around are the ones you could leave, but you don't, the ones who make you better instead of making you feel better. The difference is huge. One of them is genuine and one of them is just good at distracting you from how empty everything else feels, and you already know which category the people you're scared to cut off fall into. So here's what's actually got to happen, and I know this is brutal, but you have to be willing to find out who you are without them. You have to be willing to be ordinary for a while. You have to be willing to have a normal life with normal relationships with people who don't require you to be the hero because they're too busy being heroes of their own lives. You have to accept that being at peace might not feel as dramatic as being locked in constant emergency mode, and being at peace might actually feel empty for like 3 weeks before you realize that the emptiness was just space finally opening up for something real to grow. I'm not saying cut off everyone who's struggling. I'm not saying abandon your friends. I'm saying look at the people in your life and ask yourself one question: am I keeping this person around for them, or am I keeping them around for me? And if the answer is that you're keeping them around because they make you feel like you matter, well then you already know what you have to do. You've always known, you just haven't been brave enough to do it yet. And that's okay. I'm not mad at you for that. But the longer you wait, the more of yourself You're going to trade for a role in someone else's story, and one day you're going to close your eyes and you're not going to even remember what color your own story used to be. So after you watch this, go through your phone, go through your contacts, and actually think about which relationships are costing you more than they're giving you, which people have turned you into an apology, which friendships have turned into a full-time job with no paycheck. And maybe you're not ready to cut them off completely, and that's fine, but at least be honest about why you're keeping them around, because the only thing worse than losing someone is convincing yourself that losing them would be wrong, when the truth is you've already lost yourself in the process of keeping them. You deserve better than this. Leave a comment if you needed to hear this. If you're scared to do it alone, we're all trying to figure out how to love people without losing ourselves in the process.